I'm Jennie Gage, and this is Life Take Two. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennie Gage, and this is Life Take Two, a podcast for survivors. I'm Jennie, writer, grandma, mom, podcaster, survivor, and your internet big sister. One of my favorite things about having a podcast is being able to talk to people that ordinarily I would just sit back and watch and just soak up everything that I'm learning from them. People are always asking me what I'm reading, what I'm watching, who I'm listening to. And I have a really short list of people that I actually subscribe to and watch on a consistent basis. And today I'm talking to the public offender who is literally one of the people that I subscribe to and listen to everything that he puts out here. And it's a total privilege to have you on today. So hi there. We call you Pub,
Fine.
right?
Yeah, you call me Pub. That's fine. It works.
Welcome to Life Take Two. It's kind of fun to have you in my space when I'm always over there in your space watching.
True. And you've been on with me several times before.
Well, I've live streamed over on TikTok a couple of times.
Mm-hmm. No, you've been on my platform before. Like you've been on my live. Remember, like two or three times.
I've been on your live, but you've never come over to my house.
I haven't come over to your house.
Hang out here. So yep. I couldn't sleep this morning. I woke up at 5 o'clock just thinking about all the things we're going to talk about. So one of the reasons why you stood out to me in the very beginning, the first time I'm just scrolling my TikTok, you popped up in my For You, is, as my audience knows, I used to be a MAGA trad wife, everything the opposite of who I am today. I lived every day of my life just to be a submissive wife, just to be a submissive daughter, just to be, you know, that sweet little mom that was home baking all the sourdough bread. That was my life. And then 7 years ago, I had my big Life Take Two, and I am living a very different life now. So I'm out here as a feminist activist talking about my experience within that trad wife life. And scrolling TikTok one day, I come across you, and it was one of the very first times that I've ever seen a man with feminist things coming out of your mouth. And it shook me. Because I feel like we women, we can be over here saying, you know, some of the boyfriends that I dated in high school harmed me in horrible ways. And when I decided I wanted to go to college and make a life for myself, I faced a lot of sexism, a lot of misogyny. The patriarchy ground me down. I ended up being a trad wife. We women can be over here saying our things, but we don't hear any of that coming from men. And so to hear you really calling men on the carpet was shocking. So one of the first things that I want to know from you is, how did that all get started? This is something that I've wondered a ton whenever I watch you. What was that moment that you picked up your phone, your microphone, whatever it was, and were like, hey,
this is
when
weird.
Was the public offender born?
I got to go against this. I think that it was a long time coming, because I tell people this, like my politics have always been, like when I was 10, I was like deconstructing racism. You know what I'm saying? When I was, like I was like reading, you know, Alex Haley, Malcolm X's autobiography, and, you know, I was listening to X-Clan, and I was like, I was all on that. And then, you know, as I got older, in my early 20s, I was staunch, like very religious. Like I actually belonged to a 7-day Adventist church. And I got baptized when I was 20, I want to say 19 or 20. And I was all into that. And then I was with a woman at that time, like a high school sweetheart situation. We ended up getting engaged and all this stuff. And I don't want to like blame her. It's not a blame thing, but like she was the person that got me in the church. You know what I mean? She led me to that space. You know, I had roots in it, but I wasn't like, like I said, I got baptized in my 20s. My mom wasn't the type of person to be like, you got to go to church every Sunday. Like she wasn't that person. So it happened because of her. She led me to it. Her mom.
How many guys have gotten baptized because of the pretty girl, right? Like
I fell into that category, no doubt about it. And this is hindsight, though. At the time, it didn't feel like that. At the time, it felt like I chose it for myself fully, right? But fast forward, her and I broke up, and because of that, I left that church, and I didn't have a church to go to, like at all at the time. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to, you know what I mean? She went to that church, so I didn't want to show up to her church out of respect.
It's always awkward to go to church with the ex.
It was weird. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to go to church for now, you know, whatever. And I'm not gonna even, that started me on the path that, or like, it was like me just not going to church started the wheels to turn. And I was able to kind of like have my own thoughts. Cause I was really into, like, I went to church, you know, religiously. I went to church on Bible study. I did seminars. I did, you know what I mean? Like, I was there all the time, 3 days a week. I stayed after. I got to church at 8 in the morning and left at 8 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? On the
I
Sabbath.
did
So
not know this about you.
yeah, I was extremely religious. So after that, I met my wife, and you know, she was just my friend, you know, whatever. We were dating or whatever, right? And she wasn't religious at all. And I remember saying weird stuff to her, like, "Oh, you know, I don't know if I could marry a woman that's not Christian," and you know, and she was like, "Okay, buddy." Like, you know, she was never going to
Kevin said that to me about 2 months in, after Kevin and I had met. We've been together for 6.5 years now. And I was just kind of lukewarm Christian. I had just left the Mormon church. I was going to a Christian church. And it's like, is there anything that you can see being an obstacle to our relationship? And he flat out said, definitely, if you don't lean a little bit heavier into the Christianity, and if you don't believe in Jesus, then I don't see us working out. And I was like, damn. So yeah, so I got really Jesus-y all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, she did it. She didn't get Jesus-y. She didn't. She stayed true to, you know what I mean? She was like, okay, like, but it kept rolling. And this was like early on. So this was like almost 20 years ago. So this was like Facebook was a thing and all that stuff. And pretty much I started arguing with people on Facebook about religion. So I deconstructed my religion. I had deconstructed my racism. Or racism in and of itself. Not mine necessarily, but racism
just
in
the
and of itself.
existence of human beings judging and treating people differently because of the color of their skin. So that got all broken down.
That was gone. And then religion was gone. And then, you know, I was already like class warfare. All that was already, you know, I'm not pro-capital. Like all of my, like I said, all my politics had already aligned. Fast forward, I get married. Fast forward, you know, 10 years later or so, I have kids, and my wife is like the first person that was like, "Hey, you're sexist." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm sexist." And she was like, "Yeah, you're like sexist." And then, you know, we had this discussion. I didn't even it's like racism. Like I'm sure, like getting called racist for the first time as a non-black person is like, what are you talking? You know,
because you're just normal. That's just the way it is. And when you've soaked these things up subliminally from childhood, you know, we're subconscious dominant. We don't realize that we're being like programmed in any type of ideology. We're just soaking up how to walk and how to talk and how to hold a fork and how to, you know, do all those things. So you don't realize that that's happening to you or that you are that. So you had no idea that you were sexist. You just thought you were normal.
Yep. I thought I was an everyday average Joe. Actually, no. That would be a lie. I thought I was better. So that's the scariest part. Like, I really truly believe like I was a better person, a better man than most men. You know what I'm saying? And my wife was like, "Yeah, you're sexist." And I was like, "Okay." So that started.
Did she have some examples? Like, I want to hear. Like, what were the examples of sexism?
Oh, a major one was, so at the time, my wife was like a stay-at-home, you know, she was doing the stay-at-home mom thing. And I went to work and I would come home and I would do the man, like, you know, like be disconnected,
grab the remote control,
zone out, drink a beer, drink wine, watch football, play video games. And my wife was like, she was saying stuff for a while, right? And I was like, man, like, you know, it's extreme. Like, I remember her being like, one time she was like, "You play video games too much." And I was like, she was like, "I need you here." I said, "Okay." So my dumb self, I started to play video games like she would go to sleep at like 9 or 10. Then I would start playing at 9 or 10 and I would play until 4 in the morning. And then I would sleep until 9 or 10. So we were missing it was the same thing, but in reverse. She was like, "You just, like, instead of us hanging out at night, you know what I'm saying? Like, now you're just not hanging out.
You're still doing it.
You're still doing it." So it was that. And she came to me one day and was like, she was like, "Dude, I appreciate everything you do. You provide and all that stuff. Yes, she has pats on the back, but I still need you here as my husband, as my partner." And I was like, "Okay, you know, like, yeah, that makes sense." You know what I'm saying? So
can I ask another question? And you don't have to tell your wife's whole story, but That's really interesting because like I would have just thought that you were probably better than most men too, because I had been raised in a very patriarchal, misogynistic, gendered type of thing where the man was the husband of the home. I'd actually taken an oath in the temple that I would obey my husband. So to me, had I been your wife, I would have just thought this is normal. So that would have been normal for me too. I wouldn't have deconstructed anything. Why is your wife like that? She wasn't raised in like a gendered home. Like, did her dad do, you know, some of those women's jobs like cooking and cleaning? Was she raised like that?
She was raised by a single father.
She was raised by a single father. Oh, snap.
So he did all of that stuff.
Oh, so he did all that. So he worked and provided, and he did the cooking, the cleaning, and, you know, all of the emotional.
And not only did he do that, Jennie, he is like, we passed away a few years ago, but he's like the father. Like, I want to be like the dad that he was with her and her brother. You know what I mean?
You're just getting actual goosebumps. So he was an extraordinary human being. He was taking on the roles of both father and mother in every facet.
Yep. And so she
sees you as half a man, like Pub's only half.
She's like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm over here doing all of this stuff, and my dad was doing all of this on his own. And she never compared us in that way, but I'm sure that naturally that's kind of like what was going on. So my wife is also just she always was smart. She's you know what I mean? As a girl, she challenged. That's why she wasn't religious by that time, because her dad, he died a very religious man, and she wasn't, because she rejected it early on. So my wife was the one that started me. It was really like, it was like, people have marital problems, and I don't think that men or women, I don't think that we call it what it is, right? Most marital problems stem from misogyny. Most marital problems come from the patriarchy, like directly from the patriarchy. So,
I would say that all of my marital problems came from the patriarchy and misogyny, being a Mormon trad wife. Clearly, most of the women around me, my sisters, my cousins, my besties, all my girlfriends, a lot of the things, it was financial problems related to the stay-at-home mom versus the working dad, and, you know, having disagreements over that when they didn't have their money. And it's interesting because I have, you know, a committed relationship now for 6.5 years, and there's gender blindness. There's no pink and blue. I'm a feminist. I'm not really married. I kept my own last name and stuff. And I think that in many ways, Kevin and I maybe aren't even as compatible as me and my first husband would have been. But we have a far better relationship. And it's because we both see eye to eye on the gender blindness. And we have almost completely erased the patriarchy and misogyny and its impact in our lives.
That's the goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, but a lot of people, because of our rigidness, men specifically, because of how rigid we are, we can't let go of it. And
well, that's fear. And it makes sense not to let go of that, because that feels comfortable. That feels like tradition. That's a pattern. We're trying to show up and be the best people, right? A lot of men are trying to do their best, but that rigidness, like, not to blame anyone for being rigid, but sometimes we got to let go of that and step into fear and carve a new path. So you stepped into that fear, and you were carving a path that you hadn't seen modeled before, I assume.
Never. I never saw it growing up. I saw the opposite. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, I don't want to lose my wife, and I want to be a better person. So it was two things. And then with the kids, it was all of it. It was like, not only do I want to be a better, I want a happy family, but also I want to be happy. I want my kids to, you know what I mean? So you started to see, you know, what it was. But early on, all the problems for me they were all compartmentalized. They didn't touch each other. My wife knew the whole time that they were all connected, but I didn't. So, and that was probably 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, whatever, 10 or 12
So you didn't see like the video game playing and some of those other facets of your daily life as part of like misogyny, sexism, anti-feminism?
Nope.
You just thought that was its own little thing.
I saw him as just like, I'm a neglectful partner. Like, anybody can be neglectful. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I looked at it. But it wasn't that. So fast forward, I would say about, you know, we started working on our problems or whatever, and, you know, they got better and worse and better and worse, and it was back and forth. But I would say the real, like, where I really turned the corner was about 5 years ago. I've had this friend that I met through my wife a long time, like when we first met, right? So we've been friends almost 18 years now, maybe 19 years.
Long
So
time.
long time. And he's very misogynistic, right? And he's not single. He has a girlfriend, but he's not married, and he always had like girlfriends and stuff like that, not in
Yeah.
real committed relations, didn't live with anybody, stuff like that, never had no kids. So one day I started to have conversations with him, about relationships and relationship dynamics. And he would say stuff to me that just didn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Just based on my personal experience. I was like, that's not what happens in relationships. Like, where are you getting that from? It was that reaction. And like one of the things he said was, he was like, most dudes wouldn't do what you're doing, or are not capable of doing what you're doing, talking about being a provider. And he was like, I really commend you for that. Da, 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 da. And he wasn't giving my wife like any credit. And I remember, this is me I'm still in the thick of it, but I just remember hearing that and then knowing all the things that she did and does. And I was like, nah, I'm still winning. Like, I'm still getting the better end of this deal, because I get to go to work and come home, and then she like never gets a break. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember like telling him that even before I had even started to unpack anything. I just knew, just like, that didn't make sense. So
It's funny how we can't always see stuff in ourselves because we have those blind spots. Like leaving the Mormon church, when I had so much to deconstruct, it was when I got on ex-Mormon TikTok. Like, I pioneered ex-Mormon TikTok. There was nobody else on there when I first started talking about the Mormon church. I'd seen one other ex-Mormon TikTok creator. And so it was kind of a little vacuum of just like Jennie and like a few other people. And then as more and more ex-Mormons got on, and I heard other people's like just mindsets around racism, around misogyny, around just being brainwashed and believing everything about the Book of Mormon and whatever. When you hear other people talk things through, then we have a way of like recognizing things we don't see in ourselves. We have these blind spots to ourselves. So it's actually really helpful to hear somebody else say the stuff out loud and like realize
it
that's
gives you
a
a
problem.
chance to hear it without being defensive.
If you can do that without being defensive, because I think oftentimes we're like, oh, that's not me. So that takes a lot of self-awareness for you to hear your friend and think, oh, like, were you thinking, maybe I'm wicked like this guy.
Well, when he said that, I didn't, in that moment, I wasn't, because I never felt like that about my wife, but I realized I was treating my wife like that. It didn't matter what I felt consciously, but I was treating her like a stereotypical man. So I was like, okay, I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? So boom, let's get better with that. And then fast forward to like 5 years ago. So that's like 5 years after that conversation. He was talking about Kevin Samuels, and he was the first person to bring Kevin Samuels like to my attention. And he would be saying stuff that Kevin Samuels was saying about women and about relationships. And I was like, that is dumb. Like, that is not how relationships function. And by this time I had already started to kind of do a lot more of the unpacking. So, I was further along, and we would butt heads in our conversations. And I just realized that was really stupid. I was like, that's like that type of like, women want men for money, and you know what I'm saying? I was just like, that's not a real thing. I've never had that problem with women. I got my wife when I was living in my car. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're like, you guys are just dumb. Like, that's crazy. And so it was like that. And then I got on TikTok around that time. I went to this creator space. Her name was Jazzy Reloaded. And I was in there, and I got on the panel, and it was like 4 women and maybe like one guy and me.
You're feeling brave.
I'm just listening. No, because I was listening to what they were saying, and it resonated with me. So I joined the panel, right?
What was the topic? What was Jazzy talking about?
It was just like general, how TikTok is like about the whole like gender dynamic. It was just a gender discussion, let's say. And this dude got up there, and he just started to say like really stupid, you know what I mean? And like anti-feminist talking points, like, the rhetoric, the typical
caveman like, talk.
Caveman, the men eat steak, women eat salad stuff. And I was like, that's dumb. And I'm listening
Tarzan, to Tarzan, Eugene. Yeah.
Like, it was that going on, the Ooga Booga. And it literally, it clicked in that moment, because like you were saying, hearing them not my wife. So the women represent my wife in this scenario. The man represents me. And I'm watching it happen. And the women were like so on point and so right that I couldn't deny it. I was like, there's no denying this. Like, they're 100% correct. And I just started to like listen more. It happened just like that. And I was like,
it's so fascinating. So that was your light bulb moment.
that was it. It was literally listening to women make a dumb man sound dumb. And I was like, and I'm really big on like not sounding or being dumb. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know about other, like, I'm really big on like not being a dummy. So once I saw that he was clearly a dummy, and I was like, I probably have said some of that stuff, or I probably have thought some of that stuff. I can no longer think that anymore. And once you, and anybody that has done any unpacking like you have, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't go
like
back
it clicks. You can internally feel that click. So I'm life take 2 because it was such a dramatic awakening. And literally in that instance that I saw, oh, the Mormon church isn't true. All of these things just clicked into place. It's like my whole entire life I'd been thinking, well, this clicks for me and that clicks and this resonates and that's authentic to me. But I realized that I was just kind of duct taping my whole entire life together. And I hadn't really stepped into a space where I was truly authentically myself, where my ideologies aligned with my behaviors and the actions that were projecting me forward. And in that moment, when I walked out of the Mormon church, when I started my life in the direction that I am today, it is literally just, it clicks into place that the Legos have clicked together and now there they are. And it just feels so resonant and so right.
Can you go back? I mean, like,
you can never ever
see you can't go back, right? Like, you can never see yourself like falling for the propaganda again, right? So that's pretty much what it was for me. And since you can't go back, you got to go forward. And I just keep moving forward. And the deeper I get into it, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I think this is a part of the thing that makes me sound crazy to men, because I say stuff. And
I see the men on your lives. Like, dude, you are crazy. Like, so you push buttons with boys in ways that I've never seen anyone push buttons before. Like, you piss them off.
They get really mad at me.
Yeah. And I'm over here like, amen, brother pub. And these men are like, I don't know. Do you have like a security guard or something? Like, I don't know.
I don't. I'm not worried about him. I'll say something like, everything that women have said about men is true.
Yes.
And that blows their mind. That sounds hyperbolic, but I'm not joking when I say that, because what I'm saying is women as a group, like Jennie, you may say something about a man that's not true. You may have a bad take about men personally, but I've never heard like women talk about men in general. The things that I've heard women say about men over and over and over again, everything that they have said about us, I have seen play out at some point in time at this point. I'm like, oh, damn, they talk about how neglectful men are. I've seen that. I've been a part of it. They talk about how
less than 40% of child support is paid. Women talk about this stuff.
Not showing up. Yeah. To talk about, I guess, a little bit of what the Epstein stuff too.
We got to hit the Epstein stuff.
Yeah. But if we listen to women, we wouldn't need, like, people are like, show us the files. And I'm like, the women been saying this stuff. Why do you guys need? That's the proof. The women are telling us that's the proof. You don't need any more proof.
So I think that one of the problems behind believing women is we live in a day when we're going to go to court, we're going to argue both sides. And there's this phrase, there's 2 sides to every story. And that is certainly true sometimes. But when it comes to abuse, there are not 2 sides to every story. And abuse should not fall under that umbrella. If you have 2 little kindergartners sitting in class together and they're fighting over a pencil and they both say that's their pencil, there may certainly be 2 sides to that story. Maybe the other pencil fell on the floor. But when you have a girl who says, this man has harmed me. For 24 years, I reached out to people about the domestic violence that I was experiencing. And I was always just greeted with this. There's 2 sides to every story, Jennie. I am sure that Jake has his side of the story, and it takes 2 to tango. That's another phrase. It takes 2 to tango, and that complicity, because people don't understand the way in which girls and women get stuck in these situations where they're abused.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like, when you say people don't understand, I think women understand. I try not to use like society to mask what it really is. It's men. It's men don't understand. Men refuse to listen, you know. And it's not to say, I'm sure if you're in the church, there were tons of women who didn't listen too, right? Yes. That's usually how the church works, I know. But if you talk to women as a group, women would understand exactly what you were saying. They would be like, oh no, I get that. Like it does, yeah, he's abused. Yeah. If most women wouldn't be like, what did you do? What did you say to him to trigger it? Most women wouldn't react like that, but most men would.
This is why you're like, I only subscribe to like 25 people on YouTube. And you're one of the only people that I subscribe to. And I listen to everything all the time. If I'm just like driving to see a client or something, I'll listen to you and listen to the dialogue. This is why. Because you're right. Yeah, the women will get it. The women who've been there will get it. The women who haven't been there, they are the enablers and they act as shield maidens. And they will actually be as vicious against the survivors and victims as the men are, because they're
100%.
protecting that system, right? Like it's weird. That's always a weird phenomenon to see women who like harm other women or who keep them from getting justice. Why is that? I just think that they get so many benefits out of the system. So they're going to protect their men. They're going to act as shield maidens so that they get the stuff they want to get.
Why does any of us protect the system? Because none of us, working class people, none of us, right? Black, white, otherwise, doesn't matter. None of us benefit like the very small group of people that actually do benefit from, that extract all the value they want out of the system. So why does any of us uphold the system? But it's exactly what you said, because there's two things. There's an immediate reward, and there is an immediate amount of protection you get. And you don't want to go against the machine because it's scary sometimes.
I never went against the machine until I did. And now I do it full time. So I view our economy as, have you ever been to like the fair and they have those claw machines, and you like, you put your tokens in and there's all these prizes and you can see that big teddy bear, you can see that watch or whatever. And you'll watch people stand in line and just dump tokens into those machines because they see that thing. I feel like those very few people, the 1%, the billionaires, the ultra rich, the elite, they are those prizes in the claw machine. And we all see that. And we think that that's just within our reach, right? Like if I work hard enough, if I support the system, the patriarchy, the churches, the whatever it is, capitalism, all that stuff, then I can become one of the rich people. I can one day be Charlie D'Amelio on TikTok, or I can be Kim Kardashian, I can be Elon Musk. Those ultra elite, those rich people, they keep us incentivized. So we're always dumping our tokens into the machine. But the truth is, you're never going to get that big teddy bear. The machine just doesn't go over there. It's better if we just walk away and stop supporting all of them and detach from the system as much as we can and support each other, right? But that's my allegory.
No, I love
those
that.
Rich people.
Now, you know why it's better? Why I like even more, like another layer to that is when you mention the tokens, because you're putting so much into the game, and eventually you're going to run out of tokens. Like nobody has an infinite amount of tokens to feed the game, right? And if the tokens are like your life, the token is your attention, your energy, eventually you will run out before you get the thing that you are trying so hard to achieve. And most of the time we just run out. You chase it for so long. It was never attainable to begin with. You didn't know that because they sold you the lie that you can get it, and you burn out before you can get there. Or you spend so much energy, you spend so much money on it, right? And now you're indebted to the system. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to keep playing the game. And they're like, okay, I mean, we'll give you more tokens, but you got to do this.
Well, we're all dying broke. Everybody's working clear through their retirement, or they retire on like Social Security and live in some crappy nursing home facility. Like we're running out of tokens. We've let this whole entire busy life where we can't even keep up and hardly pay our bills anymore detach us from our tribes, from our relationships. We're also focused on transactionships and starting businesses, working our way up the corporate ladder, that we're no longer even showing up for the people in our lives, for our kids, for our spouses, for, mom, dad, aunts, uncles. We have run out of tokens. Societally, I think that we don't have any more tokens. The average American has like $66,700 in debt. That's the average American. Every human in America has at least that much debt. Some people have considerably more. We don't have land ownership. We don't have retirement. We don't have anything. We're out of tokens. But we're still trying to put what we can into that machine because we think that we can become the millionaires.
Yep. But really, we should just smash the machine and take everything in it.
Yeah. So
that's what we should do.
That's what you do. Like you're out there smashing the machine. I absolutely love how you do that. I have a question
for you. I love smashing the machine. I'm a breaker of machines. I don't like the machine. Never have. Never been a fan of it.
Yeah, we need more people like you. I have a question for you, and this is a statement. I didn't write down who said this, but it was a journalist that I heard on a segment last night who said that we have a culture of dehumanizing women.
Mhm.
So I want you to address that while we talk about Jeffrey Epstein. And I've been doing some videos over on my channel that we are living in an Epstein world. Jeffrey Epstein was not just one man. Jeffrey Epstein is a system and a large network of men who hate women. And I think that for the first time, we're kind of talking about it, but I don't think that we're talking about it as deeply as we should. Remember when that whole man versus bear thing came out, like on TikTok, like 2 years ago, and that was going around? I sat down
Mhm.
one day to do a little TikTok video, and I was like, I'm just going to make a list of every time that I've been harmed by a man, and not just like, somebody stole my pom poms at the
Yeah,
football
yeah,
game
yeah.
when I was a cheerleader, like real life stuff, like
Mhm.
sexual assault, like abuse, like theft. Like I had a boyfriend who stole my Nordstrom card when I was in college, totally racked it up, stole my purse, stole all of my money, and stole my identity. So real life harm, whether it was financial, physical, sexual, etc. And as I sat down and wrote through stuff like childhood molestation and things like that, I filled 2 pages. And I'm sure that there's stuff that I can't even remember. And then in the bear column, of course, there was nothing. And I
Yeah.
realized as I was writing this list, just so that I could do a little 2-minute TikTok video, that there were a lot of men in my life who had not seen me as a human, who hadn't seen my value, and who were so bent on the things that they wanted to do to me that they didn't give a damn about the impact that they left on me for the rest of my life. So when I see that sentence, that we have a culture of dehumanizing women, what do you have to say about that? What do you think about that? Is that an accurate statement?
Oh, 1,000%. We like, I mean, it's almost an understatement, right? Like I like what you said earlier when you said that men hate women. You know what I'm saying? It's even deeper than the hate is what spawns the dehumanization. Don't get me wrong. There is a deep desire to harm women, to subjugate women, right? From most men. And it is sadly, it is not a small percentage of men. It's not 51% of men. It's 90% of men. The numbers are as high as you can think of almost. And because the way that men are socialized, right? We are socialized to be dependent on women for all of our emotional needs, right? They don't give us, as little boys, they don't give us any tools
Mm-hmm.
to build ourselves up emotionally. They allow little girls to develop the tools because they don't give them the tools either, but they allow them to develop the tools.
Right. When I
Then
was a
they,
little girl growing up, if me and my brother both fell off of our bikes
Mhm.
and I walked in the house crying because my knees were always skinned up, I was always falling off my bike. If I went in the house crying, then my mom or my dad would pick me up and like hug me and make sure I was okay and I would be treated like a
Mhm.
princess. If my brother walked in the house with his skinned up knees, toughen up, you're fine.
Go back out there.
Yeah. It'll scab up, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like
Get
he
back on
didn't
your bike.
my brothers didn't get the love and attention. Yeah, we need you to toughen up.
Mhm. And doing that from 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever on them. And that's just, like you said, that's just the one little baby example of it. So men are taught to rely on women for all of our emotional labor. And then
So
you're
rather
also
than what? Rather than doing the emotional work themselves and being able
yourself.
to self-regulate.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. Like we can do it. We're all capable of doing it, but they
It's just
strip
not
us.
prioritized. Yeah.
They tell us they tell us it's not important. They tell you to be stoic. They tell you to hold it in. They tell you the only thing you can do is be angry or be excited. You can't be happy for everything. You can only be happy for specific things. Like if your team wins a game, then you can be really happy. If your team loses a game, you can be really sad. But you can't be sad because there are unhoused people in your community. You can't be sad. You can't have empathy for the little girls that are being SA'd or whatever by their fathers and by their uncles. You can't have empathy for people who are of a lower socioeconomic class than you. You can't be sad or have empathy for those people, but you can be sad when your car gets wrecked. When one of your possessions gets damaged, you could show frustration or anger or sadness or whatever. You know what I mean? And that is
You
a
can show
sick.
manly emotions. You can show anger. You can
Mhm,
show upset, but
mhm.
just showing connection and empathy those
Doesn't get
things
you
make you
anywhere.
look weak. Yeah.
Yep. It doesn't get you anywhere in the cult of man, right? It's so odd though how we end up dehumanizing women, but we look to women to be human, like for us. We rely on women to be the only human connection we have, while simultaneously looking at them as objects. And then that
I think
leads to
that right there, that leads to a lot of the anger towards women. I think that like even some of the
like
men in my
jealousy.
own life, yeah, there is this rage that I need this woman and I also hate this
But I
woman.
hate her.
And I wish I didn't need this woman.
Yep.
So I think that leads to a lot of the rage. That leads to the greatest risk for women of dying during pregnancy is her intimate partner. Intimate partner homicide is the greatest risk during pregnancy. That leads to 98% of rape is perpetrated by men. That leads to all of the violence rates because, yes, we need our moms and we need our girlfriends and we need our wives as men to regulate us, but we also hate them.
We can't stand it.
Yeah. So that leads to this very explosive situation.
Yeah.
A flammable codependency.
That's a good way. I like that. Coin that. I just made a video on this to your point as far as like them, you know, hating women or whatever the case may be, but needing them, that jealousy because women are allowed to be human, right? Like society allows women to be more expressive, which human traits, they allow women to be more nurturing without being ridiculed. They actually, and this is it's weird because at a certain point, it's like women develop the talent and the skill to be nurturing, right?
Mm-hmm. But we're learning it from other women. You're learning it like from first grade. I would sit in a row in my first grade classroom of all of my little first grade girlfriends, and we'd all have our hairbrushes. And while the teacher was reading Little House on the Prairie or teaching us our spelling words, then we would all be brushing each other's hair. There would be somebody behind me brushing and braiding my hair. I would be reaching over to brush and braid the hair of the girl in front. We showed up for people in emotional ways because we were taught that. That was like role modeled to us. And if one of the little boys, if I had a boy sitting behind me and he reached out to brush my hair, he would have gotten bullied for being gay, you know?
Oh, if he brushed your hair, I thought he, but if he pulled your hair.
If he pulled my hair, if he brushed my hair, if he started role modeling some of the behaviors that he saw the girls do, he would have been bullied right out of that classroom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you don't think that men and what's happening with Epstein in this Epstein world that we're all living in, you don't think that it's just because of testosterone, because of male body parts, it's not because genitals.
No, look, testosterone can make you more aggressive, let's say, right? But where you channel your aggression is up to you. So I could be aggressive, like I am aggressive. I'm very aggressive. If people don't know, if you watch my channel, I'm hyper masculine in so many ways. I know I am. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been conditioned to be hyper masculine my whole life. But
I think that's why you're so intriguing, because you seem like just such a man's man, right? You're a man's man saying, let's empathize and protect the women around us.
You can choose how you use your masculinity. You could choose how you use your testosterone driven outbursts or whatever the case may be. I use it to inflict pain upon the patriarchy. Men use it to inflict pain upon women. You see what I'm saying? I'm just as aggressive. Like y'all, they want to fight. I grew up fighting. You want to fight? I love fighting. You want to fight? I'll do it. But why are we fighting? Who am I fighting? You know what I mean? That's important to me. I'll fight. I just want to know who and why I'm fighting. They only want to fight women. They only want to fight men that want to stand up for women. You know what I mean? That's the problem. It's not the aggression. Aggression isn't good or bad, right? Assertiveness isn't good or bad. It's just, how are you going to use it is the question.
So what are men, like these men in the Epstein network? I always love when you talk about what men are thinking on your lives. What are these dudes thinking that allows them to continue perpetrating this harm on children? What are they thinking?
I
just
think
women aren't people?
They wouldn't say that. They wouldn't openly say that. You know what I mean? If you're asking what are they thinking consciously, which I think is important, I think what they're thinking is consciously that women are supposed to do X, Y, and Z. and men are supposed to do A, B, and C. So everything is justified if you look at it through that lens, right? If women are supposed to raise children and supposed to cook and clean for their men and their families, then as a man, I don't have to do that. That's not my role.
Yeah.
That's not my nature. That's not my role. That's her role. My role is to go out and work. My role is to make money. That's my job, conveniently, right? They don't even look at that. They just conveniently. Your role is to do 8 hours of labor, come home, clock out. Her role is to do 20 hours of labor every day. And you don't think that that's weird? You think nature did that to us? Like, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense.
So those ideologies around gendered personalities lead to some really toxic thinking. I bought into all of that. It's kind of funny sometimes to just look at how 7 years ago, I thought that as a woman, I was better with children. I was like just
naturally better with children?
Yeah, like on a cellular level, that I had all of these like nurturing tendencies, that God had made me to be sweeter and kinder and more patient with a 2-year-old and better at changing diapers. And a couple of kinks in that thinking happened when I started watching some Gordon Ramsay cooking show, because I really thought that women were better at cooking and nurturing and all of that stuff, all of those household duties that I, by nature, on a genetic, cellular, biological level, was better at doing those things. And then I started watching Gordon Ramsay, and one day I'm just like, wait a minute, he's a man and he's cooking. And like, it just kind of blew everything that I thought about those gendered roles out of the water. It's like, what the hell? Like, yeah, there are a lot of men who cook. It's not
the best chefs are men.
Cooking or smelling or the best chefs are men, because men can cook, but they will only cook for money.
They only cook for money. Yeah. I'm saying like the most
the most famous chefs in the world. Yeah, they're
men, and that's because of the misogyny too. But to your point, though, it just proves the point that men don't have a problem with cooking.
Yeah,
men don't have a problem with cleaning.
Love it. I literally thought that maybe I had a better sense of smell, that I had a better sense of taste, that there was something in my brain that was programmed to be a better cook than my husband was. And that's not the case at all. But yeah, 7 years ago, I would have thought that biologically that we were different.
I think women cook better than men because women cook with love. No, I'm just playing.
So, okay, to completely refute that point, when Kevin met me 6.5 years ago and we blended our lives, I was still in Mormon trad wife phase. You know, I'd only been out of the church for less than a year when he met me. So I was still kind of trad wifey, and like you, just deconstructing little segments of different things at a time. So when we first moved in together, then I would cook his breakfast and make all the homemade bread and do all of the laundry and all of this stuff, because I hadn't really deconstructed all of those little domestic bits yet. And then I don't know, like 3 years ago, when I started working longer hours on TikTok and my little business and stuff, one day I was just like, why am I still doing all this stuff? But Kevin's never cooked, right? So I've had to teach him how to cook. So we had an intervention, and it's like, I'm going to do part of the cooking. You're going to do half of the cooking. And then one day a week we'll eat out or whatever. And it's kind of remarkable to see a grown man who's 50 years old learn how to cook, and he's great. He's better than me. Everything that he does is better than anything that I've ever made. So men can learn.
Crazy. I'm the better cook in my house. But I've been cooking since I'm a millennial. I'm an old millennial. So I grew up cooking. I grew up coming home from school by myself when I was 7 years old. If you didn't cook, you didn't eat. My mama didn't get home until 7 o'clock at night most days. I had to come home, and at the very least, I had to know how to make like French fries from scratch and sandwiches. And, you know, by 10, I was cooking steaks and making mashed potatoes from scratch. I felt like it was basic, like mashed potatoes, veggies, and a protein, fried chicken. That's like whatever. Who can't do that? That's how I felt when I was like 10, 11 years old. And come to find out, that was from me being neglected as a child. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have anybody. What else was I going to do? Now my son, my 9-year-old son, can barely make a bowl of cereal because between him and me and his mother, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, Dad, give me this. I'm like, cool, got it. His mom, do this, that, mom, cool. Lunch is made. Don't worry about it. So different world, right? Different times.
Totally different times. And they both have value.
I don't know if you saw it, but there is a study done. There was a poll, I guess. I don't want to call it study. I'll call it poll. NBC just released it yesterday, and it was basically breaking down how Gen Z, the gap between Gen Z women and Gen Z men is like 20 points on how they view Trump, I literally just did a video on it. So if you want to go watch the video, whatever.
Give us all the details.
It's crazy. It's like 43% of Gen Z men approve of Trump right now. 26% of Gen Z women approve of Trump. Gen Z women, they approve of Trump the least of any demographics of anybody in the country.
Wow.
I said, this is proof that Gen Z women are the smartest women in America. They're the smartest people in America right now. But Gen Z men are slightly, I think they're like slightly higher than the average. The average is 43% right now. The men overall, Gen Z men are 47%. So I'm sure that like overall men approve of Trump like in the 50s probably, and women approve like in the 30s or something. So if you split them up, it's probably like 43% total. So it's so interesting though, because the whole dating, you know how people love to talk about dating and the male loneliness epidemic or whatever, right? The male loneliness epidemic, which is overstated to some extent because women are also lonely too. There's an epidemic of loneliness in general. And
I think the society is very detached. Yes. I'm lonely. I'm 51. And why did I say I'm almost 50? And the world is different than it was 20 years ago. When I was raising my first batch of kids and people didn't have cell phones and we weren't on Facebook as much, then we were outside talking to the neighbors all the time. I feel like we socialized so much more. Families were more close and more together. So I do feel like there is a loneliness epidemic in general. I think that our iPhones, our technology, Snapchat, stuff like that has changed the way that we behave. I think the pandemic changed things. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist. I don't know why it's changed, but I know that my connection to people around me is different than it was when I was in my 20s and 30s, because neighborhoods are different now. Society is different.
I want to say that for me too, but I think what did it for me is I don't care to be connected to people that are outside of my family. You know what I'm saying? It's not because of the internet or nothing like that. It's literally, I just don't care. Like, I don't have the time. I put so much into doing my thing in my family, trying to maintain like relationships with people or whatever the case may be, beyond like texting here and there and some FaceTime conversations here and there. I just don't really have the time. I have a house. I take care of my house. I do everything in my house. I work from my house. I got a pool in my backyard. You know what I'm saying? I got fruit trees. We're self-contained on my property pretty much, right? So I don't.
Content creation is grind too. Like I work 7 days a week. You work 7 days a week. I think that all of my friends, except for like maybe half a dozen, are other content creators that I've met on TikTok and stuff. So like most of them, we just Zoom and FaceTime and stuff. And we're busy. We're collaborating on stuff. Like I don't have time to hang out with the neighbors. But I think that just most people in general are a little bit more disconnected. I just see the way that my neighbors behave, the way that the community behaves, the way that my teenage kids and my college kids behave. It's different than things were 20 years ago. So I think that everybody's lonely. But I do know that a lot of my friends that are my age in their 50s, the husband and wife get divorced. We hit that midlife crisis. I have a lot of divorced friends, and I see a lot of women being really happy. They're happy on their own. They're running around doing things with their girlfriends. They're starting careers later in life in their 40s and 50s. And I see the men acting like they're completely lost. And a lot of the men my age, like in our 40s and 50s, when they divorce, they don't know how to do this stuff. They don't know how to cook. They don't know who their kids' teachers are. They don't know how to take care of the kids. So on that every other week, when they have the kids, they literally are in some crappy little apartment. They don't know how to even like brush their daughter's ponytail, and they are completely lost and they are lonely. So when people talk about the male loneliness epidemic, I can think of all kinds of real life men in my actual life who are going through that, and nobody's dating them. They're not remarrying. They're just lonely.
I think men are perpetually lonely though.
Why?
I think men are because the human stunted. Yeah, we're emotionally stunted. So we're always lonely. Even when we have people around us. How I look at men, like how we function a lot of times in our relationships and in our interactions with people, is like everybody around us is like hermetically sealed in like packages. We take them out when we have a use for them, but we don't engage. We don't make these like connections with people often. We're really always lonely. That's why I think that's a big reason why men are like always angry, even when they have a woman, even when they have a family, even when they're still running around mad and sulking and pissy and moaning and stuff, because they're not happy. They're not content, because you can't be content If
But
you're
again, they're
not,
not born like
well,
that. It's not like, okay, it's a boy, so this boy is going to be lonely and detached and not knowing how to connect people. The culture is doing that to us. The way that we're
yes.
being raised and everything around us is perpetuating that. And I
Mhm.
think that we can break that down. I just know for myself, when I left my whole entire life, my life take two, 7 years ago, you know that I have two sons, right?
Mhm.
And I decided I'm going to raise these two sons very differently. I don't want them to be part of this patriarchy. So my youngest was 8 at the time that I was deconstructing everything. And also, like, then I didn't have a husband. My
Mhm.
ex-husband, there were restraining orders and stuff. I got full custody of the kids. So I was a single mom to this little guy. And he was raised by a grandma and by aunts and by my best friend and all the females around. And my oldest had already moved out, his brother. So it was just him and two sisters. And he has been raised with emotional intuitiveness, with self regulation, with a connection to other people in ways that most boys aren't.
Yep.
And he's 16 now. It's so beautiful, Pep, to watch him with his girlfriend. He's had this girlfriend for a year and a half. He's so in tune with her emotions and with helping her process through her emotions. He is so connected to his other male friends. You know, he listens to them. They have really mature conversations about things. And the way that he shows up for me, just this morning, I was driving him to high school and I was telling him that I've let one of my social media clients go. So I have some more free time to work on my book. And he reaches over, he puts his hand on my leg and he goes, "What did he say?" He said, "Mom, this is great. I hope that you have time to go for your sunset walks now because that really lights you up." And just to hear the 16-year-old boy emotionally
Mhm.
connecting. I don't even think that he notices anything I do, right? But every night when the sun's going down, I'll just put on my shoes and go outside for like 15 minutes. And the fact that he's thinking about wanting me to have a positive emotional landscape and celebrating the fact that I've just created some space for myself was really beautiful. So I believe that we can raise the next generation of men a lot better than they have been.
Yeah.
Don't
It-
you?
it- I'm doing it too. I got two
Yeah.
sons. So same thing with my 9-year-old son. He's very like in tune. I would call him like a savant almost when it comes to like soft skills and making connections with people. He's the guy. He's the one. He's Neo in my house. Uh, he's way better than I'll
So
ever be,
beautiful.
at 9. He's more of a likable person. And it's because he is emotionally in tune, you know what I'm saying, with himself and with other
Well, he's
people.
been
So,
given that space. You've
yeah.
created that environment where he can develop that emotional attunement. I think it's Finland. I just saw something recently, I don't know, PBS or something, some little snippet where I believe it's Finland. They are teaching girls from like kindergarten skills of self-defense and stuff. So they have these little girls who are just like, they have like these big sticks and they're like, hoo-ha, like learning how
Yeah.
to like sword fight, fencing, things like that. So they're teaching girls to be more aggressive. And then the boys, during like an hour of their school day, the boys are learning emotional skills. So they literally have two little guys side by side. I'll find this video, I'll link it in the description, and I'll send it to you. They have these
Man,
two little guys just sitting in front of each other. All of the little boys in the school are on a mat, and they're just like touching each other's shoulders. They're
I
looking
think I've seen
into
that.
each other's eyes. Yeah. And then they
Mhm.
take a little nap on the mat side by side, holding hands. It's funny, my reaction to watching it the first time, because I've been raised in the patriarchy, I was almost afraid for these boys. Like, oh no, these little boys, they're going to be pushovers. They're not going to be able to toughen up and stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and it's so needed. And we don't do that here. We send our boys out to the football field. And if they get knocked over, we're like, well,
Get
get up
up.
and keep on going, right? You skin your knees on the bike, toughen up and get
That's
on that bike again.
that's one thing that they do to little boys. Like you said, they send you out there to go get beat up and nobody cares. The David Goggins, the nobody cares, work harder quote, which disgusted me the first time I heard it. I was like, what do you mean nobody cares? I was like, first of all, I care.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody cares, man. What are you talking about? But like in America, because we're so homophobic that
Yeah.
a
Well,
man
not we,
quoting
because
another,
the Christian men in America,
yeah, the
let's say
Christianity
like
got
this.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Christianity, but it's the same thing.
It's
Hindus are like that.
cultural. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all the major religions are like that. But yeah, definitely in America is because of Christianity, and we're so homophobic that like girls and men and women can dance together. They can hold hands together. They could sleep in the bed. They can spoon. Nobody thinks anything's of it. They'll go over each other's house just to hold each other. Oh, I'm going through it. I need somebody to hold me. They'll hold each other and watch a movie together. Men are not allowed to do that. And we need it at this point. We need it more than women. We need those connections more than women need those connections because we're so deprived of them. And we just won't allow each other the space to do so. Men are going to shame you for doing that, right? And I know that firsthand from being in my space and being in the space that I'm in, that I've created for myself. Just being like sensitive to the things that women are going through. Oh, you're gay.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. Like, I'm like, Jennie, it's the funniest thing because, again, I'm like super hyper masculine, like ridiculously rah, like grew up playing, like you talk about playing football. I played football from 10 to 16, you know what I'm saying? Like I played football my whole life and all that stuff. And I got a wife and I got kids. And I'm like sitting there like, you on paper, you actually fit the bill more than me. And I'm not even like proud or like trying to be that. I just have been that my whole life. And but me just being like, no, you know what, Jennie, you're right. You're like, dang. What the hell?
Well, and that's sad because gay is a specific thing. You're in love with a man. And it's sad that if you have any type of emotional intuitiveness, if you are emotionally connecting with another human, only gay guys can do that. So then what that means for us heterosexual females is that we're left with a bunch of emotionless, disconnected assholes, right? Because if only gay men have emotions, then the heterosexual men that we heterosexual women end up with are literally just assholes.
They won't have it.
It's funny, after my divorce, 100% of my friends were gay. And I had 3 gay men that were like my besties. They helped take care of the kids and stuff. And they were some of the kindest, most amazing people that I've ever known.
Oh, I believe it. I know. But I was going to say, remember that Obama clip that made all the men crash out? When he was like, yeah, maybe as a boy, you should have like a gay friend, because when you have a gay friend, typically they're more like open and more emotionally available for you. And you may need to open up about your own dad with them. And all the men were like, Obama's telling the little boys to be with gay men. I was like, bro, what are you talking about? He just said, you might need a sensitive friend in your group because you guys don't have any. So what's the problem? The patriarchy cannot allow for men to be sensitive or be empathetic at all. There's no room for it whatsoever, because the patriarchy is very fragile and it doesn't take much for it to completely shatter. That's why, same thing with you with the religion and all that stuff. It's so shallow, right? It's not deep. There's no depth to it. It's a bunch of like scare tactics.
As deep as a pancake.
Deep as a pancake. It's scare tactics and fear and superstition and all that type of stuff. It's not really rooted in anything real. So the patriarchy functions very similarly to that. It only takes like 5 seconds, if you think about it, to blow the whole thing up. It only takes like one moment of clarity. And then you're like, wait, what was that? I want more of that. That makes perfect sense. And that's how you and me, we could easily keep going down these paths, because the whole thing is a scam, right? Mm-hmm. And then once you like see the Wizard of Oz, once you actually see him walk down.
I was just thinking the Wizard of Oz.
You're like, Elphaba. You're like, dude, like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? It ends up falling apart fairly quickly. If you allow yourself to see, then it'll fall apart quickly. And that's why men are so like vehemently opposed to anybody that raises questions about the patriarchy, that challenges it, because they know all it takes is one good poke, one good prod, and the whole thing comes apart for them.
So I have one ending question for you, and I'm going to answer it first, and then I'd like to hear from you on that topic of breaking down the patriarchy. Now, if I was capable of just imploding the entire patriarchy globally and stepping into a more egalitarian, more equal type of state of being, then I would, but I can't. But I have pretty much wrecking balled the patriarchy in my own life. So my question for you is, having deconstructed that patriarchy, like you told us about at the beginning, and changing the way you behave, not just the way you think, but the way that you're actually acting on the outside, have you had benefits from that? Is it better, or do you wish that you could go back? And I'll say for me, if I had known the happiness that I would have outside of my Mormon trad wife life, which I stayed in for so many years, not just because they made me, but because I thought that that was the best way to be. I thought that that was the answer to happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I am so happy as this woke atheist feminist who is living a life full of purpose in a relationship that's very equal and very ungendered. And I look back now and I see that the only thing that was keeping me from stepping into this was fear of the unknown. I wanted to live like my mom and dad had lived, like my grandmas and like everybody around me, like the Bible taught me, like my Mormon teachers, like everything that I saw on TV about husband and wife. I was very much afraid to step into that dark, but it has 100% been worth it in every way. And I am literally happier today, not only than I was before, but happier than I ever imagined I ever could be.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that you've had benefits, that stepping away, breaking down that patriarchy in your own life has led to greater happiness? And if so, can you give me a couple examples of that before we wrap up?
Yeah,
What's changed?
another great question. Absolutely. Obviously, my relationship with my wife has gotten exponentially better. With my children, exponentially better, right? The connection that I have with people is different, right? Like you and I, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if prior to me deconstructing and breaking it down, I don't know how I would have been. I've always been like I'm a cool guy. You can reach out to me, I'll help you and that type of stuff. But like, I didn't become more intentional until I started to unpack my misogyny. I didn't become.
Can I interrupt with just a little thing there? Because I should have led with this and then finish up your thought. I just want my audience to know that I'm on YouTube right now because of the public offender here. I had been on TikTok. I was filling out applications to try to get a job at Trader Joe's because my TikTok got shut down during the election. And you and I had collaborated on a couple of things. And you're not just a guy who talks the talk, you walk the walk. You support so many women in so many beautiful ways. Like, I feel like you're the little brother that I don't have anymore, you know? You reached out and very intentionally helped me to get onto YouTube, helped me get monetized. And then when I was being bullied by the Mormons here 2 months ago and I shut down, it's like, that's it, I quit. I'm never doing social media again. Once again, looking at Trader Joe's and other things. You spent so much time just really supportively encouraging me, helping me to get over like the mind games that we play as creators, giving me so many tips that have led to success for you, and literally just helping me understand how to read my data, helping me understand how to reach my audience, and telling me, get back out there. Like, you pushed me back into the ring, you put the boxing gloves on, and I am doing everything that I'm doing right now, and some things that I can't talk about yet, that projects that are coming out. My CBC documentary in Canada was because of my YouTube. They found me on YouTube. That's going to drop next month.
Remember that.
A lot of things that are happening in my life are because you connected with me as another creator and were supportive. And I think that's beautiful. I want more of that from men. That's one of the reasons why you're such an example to me.
I appreciate that.
Would you have done that back in the old days? Like Patriarchy pub?
I don't know. I've never been like a selfish person in that way. You know, I've always tried to help my friends and stuff like that. But you and I never would have been in the same space to begin with. You see what I'm saying?
You wouldn't have been listening to me. You'd have been like,
I wouldn't have been listening to you. I wouldn't have found it. Just wouldn't have happened at all. So that's what I'm saying. Me being at this place where I'm like, everything I was taught was a lie, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? You get to that place where you're like, all right, it's easier at this point to believe that everything I was taught was a lie than it is to try to like sift through what was right and wrong, because 99% of it was wrong. Once I have gotten to that place and I just accepted like my role in it and what I've done and how I've harmed people and how I harm myself or whatever the case may be, and just tried to grow from that, it just helped me make more connections with people. It just makes it easier to be in community with people and be in community with women, and it not be transactional and it not be like, I do a little for you and you do something for me and any of that type of stuff. It's just like, I just genuinely think you're cool and I want to, you know what I'm saying, I'm your friend and let me look out for you. And people do the same thing for me. You know what I mean? Like being in my space, I could tell stories about people that gave me so many ideas, and my wife who pushed me to do what I'm doing. And I had a woman like 3 years ago, she was like, Public, why aren't you monetized? Why aren't you like, I remember the conversation, like that was literally her tone. Like she was like very like accusatory and like, what are you doing? And like, you're dumb. It was like, she didn't call me that, but it was like that tone. She was like, you're great at this. Like, and I was like, am I? Like, I don't know, whatever. She was like, no, just do this and just do that. And I was like, okay. And I did it. And I just kind of like paid it forward with you. That's how I feel like I've just been doing that, and you pay it forward. You help a bunch of people. So that's
Yeah,
how
well, I
it
have a
is.
couple of people that I'm helping now. So
Exactly. Like we all just, it becomes the thing. I think the patriarchy, what it does is it cuts you off from people. It makes you be like,
we're transactional rather than relational. And I
yes.
think that my whole entire life before was one giant transaction ship. And I really didn't have true relationships with anyone. I didn't have a relationship with my husband or anybody around me. I was just one giant transaction after another. I've been doing videos about corporation versus cooperation and how that humans are naturally cooperative. When we have a little to give, we will give to other people. Humans in the wild would be very cooperative. If we weren't, the human species would have completely gone extinct. And now just our system, the stratification, the status, those powerful people at the top, the patriarchy that is trying to extract all of our work and labor and everything from us, we are so corporate that we are no longer in a state of cooperation with one another. I'm always independently resisting. Again, I can't topple that whole entire system. I can't get rid of all of the billionaires, but I've gotten rid of the billionaires in my life. I support local businesses. I go to farmers markets. I've been boycotting Amazon for about 7.5 years now, except for like medical devices and things that I can't get anywhere else. Like I literally don't even have an Amazon account. We can't topple that whole thing, but we can focus as individuals on cooperativeness, support, and not live a corporate life.
Yep. You said it. I agree 100%, and I appreciate that.
You said it. Okay, what's your final thought? What do you want people out there to do? How do we change this? How do we change our world? We can't change the whole world, but I don't know. You can tell us how we can change the whole world too. You can go big if you want to. Final thoughts.
Okay. Changing the whole world, if we're starting top down, is get rid of capitalism, and we got to undo the racism and all that type of stuff. Not voting for people like Trump, obviously. Like undoing conservatism as a whole, as an ideology. It shouldn't exist, and all that nature, all that stuff. Interpersonally, I don't really have a message for women, because I don't really think as a man I need to be telling women anything. And I don't mean that. I really, truly, individually, like you and me, we can have a conversation. Helping you out with your YouTube is something completely different than me, a man, trying to like explain to you how to move through the world as a woman. I just don't feel like it's something that I can do. But as a human, I'll tell you that me personally, the way that I do very similar things to you, but I also, for me, I just make sure that I'm really big on having integrity and doing the thing when nobody is looking, like doing the right thing. And even more than that, thinking the right thing when I really don't have to even be thinking that. When I could be playing that game where I'm thinking the whatever thing, I know it's bad. I do the right thing in public, and you know what I'm saying, which is still fine. It's better than whatever, nothing. But I also work on making sure that my thoughts are good. That way I don't have to ever perform. I'm always just authentically, I get to be myself. Everybody just finding their like true authentic self and their authentic voice is like really important. And the best way to do that is to clear your mind, right? Make sure that you're authentic to yourself and you're true to yourself. And then that way you don't have to like go out there and like put on a face for anybody. You're just this person all the time.
Would you say that you don't feel like you're putting on a face anymore in your life? That you're just living like who you are? You're just being you?
Yeah. Being a content creator, I get to 100% be me all the time. I get to be me at work. I get to be me when I'm with my wife. I get to be me when I'm with my kids. I get to be, nobody can stop me from being me. So I'm like completely free at this point. And I just try to make sure that the person that I am, though I'm far from perfect. The person that I am, though, is positive, right? I am like actively doing the right thing, the moral thing, the thing that's going to help most people, so on and so forth. And that's, for me, that's like immensely important. It doesn't get more important than that in my life right now.
I love that. I so appreciate talking to you. I know that you got to run. Thank you so much for spending so much time.
Jennie.
Everybody, please go follow the public offender. I love his TikTok. So if you're just watching me here on YouTube, check out TikTok and catch some of his lives. They're really great discussions. They give you a lot of insight into how all types of people think. And I absolutely love the way that you defend equality between the sexes. So check out Public Defender anywhere else that they can find you. You're on TikTok, you're here on YouTube. Anything that I don't know about? Do you have a book or something I'm not aware of?
I do have a children's book on about consent, but whatever.
Wait,
I
you
am
do?
going to do.
I'll put that link in
Yeah.
the description. I didn't know that.
Okay.
See?
Yeah. I wrote it a long time ago. My wife and I wrote it. I'm going to start going live again because I stopped going live for a long time, like regularly. So I'm going to start going live again, and I'm going to do like basically like manosphere videos. Like I'm just going to debunk manosphere videos or whatever on my life. So it should be, it's fun. I did it before. It was super interesting. People loved it. Yeah. So
that sounds good.
that's it.
I'll follow that for sure. All right. Thanks for your time and
All
have
right.
a good day. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.